earlier this week, we got the newest trailer for Palworld, a monster taming survival title with a third-person shooter twist. Now, I think the game looks pretty cool given how it really gives a different perspective on what one of these worlds could actually look like if these sort of monsters existed. You can choose to be evil and poach and exploit your monsters, or you could choose to treat them with love and respect, and seeing these two different ideals existing simultaneously in the same game is pretty interesting. Anyways, a lot of people both within the monster taming community and without point at a few different designs present within the game that look heavily inspired by various Pokemon, and many are even calling them Pokemon knockoffs. Now, let me just say real quick, this thing does not look like Kyogre. It's literally just a blue whale. Y'all gotta chill. Same with this one. It's a dog. Lycanroc's a dog. It's no one's fault that Lycanroc just literally looks like a brown dog with stones sticking out of him. Albeit, I love Lycanroc, but come on. And this is not Raichu, guys. Come on, seriously. This is My Neighbor Totoro. Get it right. Anyways, silly comparisons aside, there are a couple that I even have to admit are pretty clearly inspired by Pokemon, including this one that looks very similar to Zoroark but with thunder thighs, this one that looks really close to Murkrow, albeit kind of cooler in my opinion, and some people are saying that this looks a lot like Lucario, but to me it just looks like a bipedal Egyptian doggo. Anyways, this video is not meant to be a Palworld video. In fact, it's actually meant to be a video about Pokemon and how there's a lot of hypocrisy that exists right now from people writing off all of these designs as ripoffs or knockoffs. The purpose of this video truly isn't even to determine whether or not they are or are not knockoffs or ripoffs or inspired designs, but rather to talk about how Pokemon has quote-unquote copied other franchises in the past, and no one seems to bat an eye. So I have two images here that Seth sent me. The first is a Yokai Watch and Sun and Moon comparison that I actually remember seeing years ago. The second one, which I will touch on in a bit, is more interesting though in my opinion. Anyways, for context, Yokai Watch in Japan actually outsold Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, and while these games did come out on top internationally, it's no secret that when the Pokemon company sees something that works in their homeland or otherwise, they do tend to take ideas from that franchise. This image here showcases a bunch of features that were added to Pokemon Sun and Moon that were supposedly close to features in Yokai Watch. Yokai Watch has the Ultimate ability, and subsequently Pokemon introduced Z moves in Sun and Moon, and I will admit that this is more reminiscent of something like a Limit Break from Final Fantasy, but even in that case Pokemon still took the idea from somewhere else. What's more suspicious is that it was added in the generation that had just followed Yokai Watch during its very successful time. You have the Totem Pokemon being very similar to the boss yokai, the little dances they do, and even the Z bracelet looks very similar to the Yokai Watch itself. Now, to me, even though the inspiration was clearly there, I wouldn't even call this ripping off. I'd say that they saw something that another game was doing and they put their own spin on it, and that's fine. My issue is that when another franchise does this with Pokemon, for example, having monster battling or having a capture mechanic or what have you, that's suddenly labeled as ripping off Pokemon or copying Pokemon, when truly Pokemon did not even invent most of its original mechanics. Turn-based battles existed way before Pokemon did, monster battling existed before Pokemon did, RPGs existed before Pokemon did, and that's okay. I'm not bashing Pokemon for utilizing mechanics and ideas from other franchises because that's how you make a genre better. My issue is when you literally see a giant blue whale and just call that Kyogre, especially when in the same trailer there are a lot of better monsters to call out if that's your goal. Anyways, this next image showcases some of the monsters from Dragon Quest V, which came out in 1992, versus some of the Generation 1 Pokemon. Now, just taking a look at this, and before you say, oh, well, a lot of these monsters are just the same animal or the same type of creature or have the same type of theme, but it's not really knocking off. That dog from Palworld is literally a dog. The whale was literally a whale, but they're being called knockoffs. Also, something to consider is that at this time, there were only 150 Pokemon and something like 76 monsters in Dragon Quest that were recruitable. This means that the pool for overlap was much smaller, making it more suspect. Now, I don't agree with all of the comparisons here. In fact, you see this right here, that's not an Ammonite, that's literally just Slowbro's tail. But the point I'm trying to make is that Pokemon is not above taking inspiration, or as a lot of people would put it, copying other games. I think out of this list, other than the Slowpoke tail thingy, Some more suspect designs include Geodude, looking very similar to this creature, the Shelder and that Clam that both have the exact same sort of design philosophy with the tongue sticking out, and even the Ghost with Ghastly. Like, those are very similar in terms of their design philosophy, especially considering the small amount of monsters present in both games. What are the chances that both games decided to do a Cloud Gas monster and a Clam with its tongue sticking way out? And Slowbro's tail. Someone had pointed this out to me actually. There's also a dragon and bug classification in Dragon Quest V, which I hadn't been aware of, which is kind of funny because most of Pokemon's types are based on elements, but then suddenly you have a few creature-oriented types like bug and dragon, so that's another example of quote-unquote copying. Now, I just wanted to talk a little bit about Legends Arceus. It's absolutely no secret that Legends Arceus and even Sword and Shield have taken some inspiration from the Monster Hunter franchise. Firstly, the overworld encounters, while not invented by Monster Hunter stories, do seem to function quite similarly in those two games compared to Legend. The way the game's going to have you go from one area and then sort of branch out to others in this sort of segmented open concept, but not quite open world, is also very similar to Monster Hunter stories. The angry and glowing Pokemon sort of remind me of the blighted monsters from both games as well, etc. With all this in mind, whether it's Dragon Quest V, Yokai Watch, or Monster Hunter, you guys want to know what I think about Pokemon taking ideas from other monster taming games and vice versa? I think it's totally fine, and while sure some of Palworld's designs are looking a little close, don't be pointing your finger at that game while also not being privy to how Pokemon has done the same. Palworld is a survival game, it's a third-person shooter, and has an open world. All of these are features that Pokemon has never done, so to take a handful of just designs and write off the entire game as a concept, as a knockoff, is very disingenuous in my opinion, especially considering what Pokemon has done in its past. So all in all, the basic takeaway here is that taking inspiration from other games is nothing new, and if you want to call out non-Pokemon games for being too similar, at least have the logical consistency to call out Pokemon for doing the same. I'm not going to end this video by saying whether or not I think those monsters are too similar or not. I actually want to know what you guys think about that. Do you think some of Palworld's designs are too similar? And furthermore, do you think some of Pokemon's designs are too similar to Dragon Quest? Make sure to let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for daily monster taming content. You can also check out my Twitter and Discord, which will be linked below, and I just want to say special thanks to all my patrons, especially Steel Case, Jim Hamilton, and Dark Persona. We'll see you guys next time. Peace.